A very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Fourth Estate. Charles Mwangu Shampagi, and on this 11th day of January 2016, looking ahead for the elections which will be on February 18th, we're coming to you live from the Serena Conference Center at NTV, and you'll have an opportunity tonight to share with us some feedback. In the last segment, we'll open the phone lines for you to call in and field questions to the guests that we have in the studio. We are keeping the media teams of the three major campaigns, plus my colleague Onapito Komolo, whom I'll be introducing in a moment, to discuss for us what is going on in the campaigns. And we'll be starting with the planned 15th January debate, presidential debate, which two candidates, the leading candidates, Yoweri Museveni and Dr. Kizza Besigye, have communicated they will not be participating in. Kizza Besigye giving his reason as the absence of President Yoweri Museveni, and President Yoweri Museveni giving his reason as not disrupting his campaign, as he will be campaigning in Bushenyi on the 15th. Let me start with the head of publicity of the Museveni task force, the NRM task force, which is fronting candidate Yoweri Museveni, Mike Sebalu. He's a member of parliament, member of the East African Legislative Assembly. Mike, very nice to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting us. And I would like to salute the viewers out there for taking off time to participate in this show.
Next to Mike Sebalu is another Michael now, Michael Mabike. He is the head of publicity for the Go Forward camp of candidate John Patrick Amama Mbabazi, who's running as an independent. Mike, very nice to have you.
Me too. Thank you very, very much for inviting us. Good evening, viewers.
I should note that we missed you last Sunday because you came actually and you weren't able to join us on the state, but we had expected you to join us.
Sure.
Let me turn to the Forum for Democratic Change. Dr. Kizza Besigye, represented head of media and publicity for the task force of Elect Kizza Besigye 2016, Honorable Ibrahim Semujunganda. He's also a candidate in his own right. Ibrahim, very nice to have you.
Thank you.
And of course, my colleague, Onapito Ekomoloid.
My first time on the show this year. Happy New Year.
Thank you. And of course, we continue to say Happy New Year to our viewers. Let me start with the big question, which is, will there be not a debate, a first presidential candidates debate in this country? We know that from the perspective of the organizers, the Inter-Religious Council of Uganda and NTV, the debate will happen. But Mike, your candidate has indicated he will not participate. And yet, from what we know, it is the NRM and President Yoweri Museveni who gave the date of 15th January as the date he will be available. Why the
I'm hearing that from you, and I don't know your sources, so I don't want to go in details of that. But like I indicated yesterday on NTV, we have a campaign schedule that was originated at the beginning of the campaigns. And our candidate has been very consistent in terms of following it, both in spirit and letter. As of today, we've done 173 rallies in over 70 districts and 13 regions of the sub-regions of this country. And no single rally has been altered or postponed, not even a venue or time, or even a district or a sub-region. So we've been very consistent, and we intend to take it that way. So on the scheduled date of the 15th, our candidate has 3 rallies in 2 districts. That is the district of Bushenyi and the district of Mitoma. And he's got a rally in Igala East. He's got a rally in Ruhinda County and Ruhinda County North. And if you are to go by the regulations, campaign rallies end at 6, and this debate begins at 6. And how you can make it from Mitoma to be here at 6 is something that you can appreciate. But that aside, we appreciate it is a good idea to have the debate, but not at the expense of a scheduled program that has been put in place, where the organizers are already in full gear with their mobilizations. And we treasure our massive support, because NRM is a mass party, but we enjoy that mass support from the countryside. And it would be not fair on our part to sacrifice them at the altar of a big event in Kampala, which was not part of the schedule.
We'll come to the sacrifice part in a moment. Let me come to Semu Junganda. Your candidate tweeted today, yesterday actually, and indicated if President Yoweri Museveni is not participating, then there is no reason for him to appear, and therefore he will not appear. What is your reason? He's given his reason.
I think Dr. Kizza Besigye addressed the press conference today before started his campaigns in Moroto, and the reasons were the obvious ones. There are two sides in this campaign, like it has been before. To use the very words used at the press conference is that you have a 30-year-old dictatorship and people are against it. And that's the debate that Ugandans expected. And said if it can't happen that way, we can't go to debate ourselves. All of us are arguing that Mr. Museveni must hand over power. And that's why we're in this exercise. Then the person all of us are contesting against is not in the debate. So do you go to debate Honorable Mbabazi or Chari and Mabirizi? Because this is not a ceremony that you go for a debate. So the contest, the moment Mr. Museveni has expected, said, I will not be participating, he left the debate to one side. And Besigye on that day, 15th, he will be in Tororo. So he said, now, do I go and debate Honorable members with whom we are making the same argument? In fact, it's just because we are many, but one of us can represent all of us because we are making the same argument. So do we go to debate ourselves? The person we wanted to debate, because of his administration for 30 years, says, I am not participating as expected. And I mean, he can give cosmetic reason. That's just obvious. Museveni thinks he's a super candidate. So he thinks by sitting on the same table with others, he will be elevating them to a level. Because you don't have a presidential candidate. You have someone who is holding on to power, and he campaigns as a president, not as a presidential candidate. Even this day, as you said, I know Justice Ogwa, they met him actually in July last year, and he said maybe on 15th I'll be available. In fact, the organizers were organizing a debate around Mr. Museveni. In fact, we had issues to raise with them. You've not written to us. As soon as Museveni confirmed the 15th, they said, okay, now we can go ahead, because they thought others. But we didn't mind all about that. We said, we will be available.
Okay.
And Museveni kept saying, I am available. Until when he realized it won't be simple to go and debate the issues, because he said they are lying, so now I am available. I have had the occasion to debate with him, and it's easier
You know how you debate. Okay.
It's easier to debate.
Let's check with the go-forward camp. Amama Mbabazi, will he or will he not attend the debate?
We are making preparations to attend this debate. First, I want to respond to Mike's flimsy excuses. We are all aware that President Museveni has available helicopters, both official and even unofficial. And I believe that a helicopter is a very, very fast mode of movement from Mitoma to conference center. But that said, we have lived in Uganda long enough to know that President Museveni fears competition. He fears competition in his own party. That is why he is the sole candidate. He fears competition of ideas. And my own take on this is that the issues at stake in Uganda are bigger than these individuals. And Ugandans need to know, how do we move from this stage to the next stage? Mm-hmm. And that is why we are saying, whether Mr. Museveni is coming or not, we will be in. We want to tell Ugandans that we need to move from this stage to the next stage. We need to move forward.
You've taken on what you called Mike Sebalu's flimsy excuses. You haven't taken on the excuses given by the FDC candidate, represented hereby.
No, we shall certainly represent very, very ably the FDC candidate. Because as Honorable Semuju rightly says, we are on the same side. And the broad goal for our side is that we need change. And we need to take Uganda from the stage where the NRM has taken it to another level. So we shall ably represent.
Can I take it from you, Mr. Mabike, that this is confirmation that candidate Amama Mbabazi intends to participate in the debate next week.
Yes.
He will. Let me come briefly to Honour Peter Komoloit. The idea and the culture of debate. There's been all these arguments. In 2006, that presidential election, a debate was organized. President Yoweri Museveni, again, 2005, for the 2006 elections, President Yoweri Museveni, who was a candidate for the NRM, decided not to attend the debate. He sent a representative. Dr. Kizza Besigye, who was the most serious challenger in that election, also said, if President Museveni is not participating, I'm also not participating. So he sent a representative, and then the other candidates ran. This culture of debate and the reasons, do you hear the reasons, especially Sevalu and Semuja given?
Well, Charles, I think the culture of debates is really, again, another borrowing from Western democracies, which really, this debate is supposed to take place in a context of equals. But I've always maintained that this is essentially a feudal society where people are more looking at the leader as the king. You don't debate with the king, you know?
The king doesn't debate with...
No, he doesn't debate with his subjects.
Yes.
So President Museveni, just being himself, being vintage Museveni, he knows, and many would take his position, that one, you don't want to send a message out to the ordinary voter that you are putting these guys at par with you. Because one of his strengths, which he has exploited very well, is this sense of invisibility of the leader. The president is not like any other person. So you don't want to see people lobbying accusations at him at close range. They can attack him from their campaign rallies, but not at the same place. You don't want the ordinary voter to see that, because you are blinking, mm-hmm. and you have a voter who largely believes that the president is tough, the president is better than all these guys, he has been in power for 30 years, they can't manage him. So you have to maintain that. That's a winning strategy.
But what does that say about the value of the vote itself? Because if the president goes into this election thinking he's above everybody else, then the value of the vote itself, he's talking about 3 rallies in Bushenyi, Igara East, Igara West, and in Metoma. And you're presenting him, the entire country, on one platform. What would you rather do?
Yeah, ideally you would be able to tell the people in Bushenyi that I would be with you today, but I'm here because of this. But he knows precisely that that's not what would help his campaign. For Besigye, on the other hand, he's always enjoyed this element of showing the country that he can take on the president. And what better way if he was close to him and eyeball to eyeball. So it would be a nice winning strategy for Besigye to show that I can't take on this guy at close range, if it means. Yeah.
Mike, let me turn back to you. Your excuses are being termed flimsy. I have seen a lot of social media debate about the reasons you're giving. Actually, people were skeptical. And as Semuju says, until the NRM indicated it would participate in the debate, no date was fixed for any other candidate. And the other candidates were not given that opportunity to debate, because the most difficult candidate to get would be the incumbent president, Yoweri Museveni. You have an opportunity to stand on national television and tell the people in Metoma, in Bushenyi, in Rubirizi, in whichever constituency he's supposed to go to, and say, I am here and I'm speaking to you.
Yeah, but looking at it that way is very opportunistic. You don't have to jump on any platform because it exists. You have a clear campaign strategy upon which you work. Our campaign is physical. Let's get engagement with the people in their areas. And that's why we've designed a campaign that is grassroots based. We are doing constituency campaigning.
Your strategy is you do not want your candidate to be asked the hard questions.
Not
because
at all.
When you go
Charles, Charles,
yes.
Mike Sevalu speaks as if the whole story started with the president saying, I am not part of the debate. Not once, not twice, but more than 5 times when the president was saying, I am going to debate Besigye and Mbabazi himself. It's as if Mike speaks for someone who a super being who lives in heaven and with no revelation.
But
he himself said, I am available, I am going to debate this.
The campaign is money.
Now,
the campaign is money.
Now,
so it is the advice he's acting on the advice of the campaign.
Because our campaign is not an individual. It is institutionalized. There are clear structures and there is consensus that is generated.
Yes, why
so
then
the idea of peddling the issue of a big platform, so many people, is opportunistic. Because if you have your program, so like you have your wedding, and then someone invites you to a bigger wedding, do you abandon your wedding? We have our program and we go by our program. So whether the program that has come gives us a bigger platform, it would be opportunistic on our part to abandon ours just because a big platform is available.
I hear you on that. The other strand of that question is that you do not want to be asked the hard questions. So you prefer to go and talk to the people, mobilize them, but you don't want a debate because the debate is the only opportunity for all candidates in this election to have to answer the hard questions.
Yeah, but you see, each party and each candidate has a manifesto, and that is the basis. That is the basis of each party's campaign. We have a manifesto, FDC has a manifesto, and Go Forward have a manifesto. And many of the issues they are raising are countering the issues that we are raising. So what is basically different? And our manifesto is a public document. It has been availed to the entire population. Even other candidates have used it in their own campaigns in terms of countering it. So the issue of hard questions, first of all, candidate Museveni on issues of questions and even explaining himself, he is very well known for that, if anything, even in international fora, in regional fora, in continental fora. So none of these candidates would really give him sleepless nights. And that is known, definitely.
Yes, you appreciate, Mr. Sevalu, that your candidate is an incumbent, not just of the last term, but of the last 30 years. So he is actually facing an audit. And therefore, he needs to use this opportunity to explain to a larger section of Ugandans to account for his 30 years in power.
But his audit and accountability is with the people. And when he stays in Mitoma with the people for whom he was scheduled to meet, there is no better accountability than that. If he abandoned them and jumped onto the bandwagon of this debate, he would then be he would be undermining the very people that he's supposed to account for, because he's been to the rest of this country and his campaign arrangement is to go to the entire country. So this does not provide him the only opportunity to meet the people. He is going to meet them, and he's going to meet them in their areas, not jumping on opportunistic platforms.
An opportunistic platform, is that the reason you're running away from the debate yourselves, Mr. Semuju?
One of the issues we raised with Justice Ogola as we prepared for this debate, do we assemble to have a debate of presidential candidates or a debate with the president? He said, actually, that if it's a debate of presidential candidates, we will be there. We will be willing to cancel our campaign. I have had the opportunity 3 times to have a debate with Mr. Museveni. And on all the 3 occasions, he begins with a preamble of about 10 minutes. I remember the first time we had a debate with him as journalist, he said we should only be present to ask questions. So there is no debate with him. I was still young, but I said, please, I can watch from home. I don't have to go and ask. He said, okay, now they can come. But he had to make a lengthy presentation for nearly 15 minutes. And then he said, okay, you can ask a question. The last thing, last year, we had a debate on a radio station. The first one, by the way, was recorded in State House, where he's comfortable.
You had the debate on Capital Radio.
Yes, so he said, okay, now I can come to your studio. I don't want to say the president is a coward, but he's a person who doesn't want anyone else to set the agenda. The opposition, in the interest of this country, organized a conference at Water Africana with the civil society, with the religious leaders, invited him. I asked him during the break when we had him on Capital Radio, that is this a personal property that even when you're invited by a larger section of Ugandans, you can't honor the invitation? He told me I can't come to attend that conference organized by idealist donors, their agenda is different, and so on and so forth. I think for this debate, he was under pressure to say, okay, I'll come, especially having met Justice Ogola and others in July and said I'll be available on 15. The reason for us, we are not participating, it's just to emphasize the point I made earlier, you don't want to go and debate yourself.
But your candidature is not about President Yoweri Museveni. Your candidature is about the people of Uganda and what you plan to do as a party if you win power.
The candidature is a contest between ourselves and Museveni. It's not a contest between ourselves and Onanabambabazi or Charlie or Mabilis. And that's why even the value, I mean, for
I thought those are opponents that you're facing in the campaign.
They are candidates in their own right.
They are candidates in their own right.
I'm not saying they are not candidates in their own right. I said it's like a referendum. You can only have two sides.
Okay. I'm afraid let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I'll pick it up with Mike Mabike and Onapito Ekomloid. The Fourth Estate is coming to you live from the Serena Conference Center, and we have with us the heads of media in the three major campaigns, which is the National Resistance Movement. The media team is headed by the Honorable Mike Sebalu. He represents Uganda at the East African Legislative Assembly. And we have the Honorable Michael Mabike. He formerly represented Machindye West Constituency. Machindye East Constituency. My apologies. Yes, and he's a candidate. And we have the Forum for Democratic Change, which is represented by Ibrahim Semujunganda. He heads the media team there. And he is a member of parliament for Bukoto, Chadondo East constituency. I keep mixing up. We have so many. I was looking at the numbers, and the National Resistance Movement is fielding in 399 constituencies. Total number, including the affirmative action seats, you have 399, which means
there are more because there is military where they are the only competitors.
Mr. Mabike, let me come back to you.
Yes.
The value of this debate. Semuju says you'll be debating among yourselves. You agree with him. President Yoweri Museveni says he doesn't see the value in participating in a debate.
We don't like to fall into the trap of personalizing very important public issues. And that's why we think that whether Museveni is there or not, we should be there to tell Ugandans what must be done. And of course, debates, presidential debates all over the world are an opportunity to test the viability and workability of some of the ideas that these candidates are selling. And it is through debate that people of Uganda can actually know whether some of these ideas Mr. Museveni has, Mr. Besigye has, Mr. Babas has, can really work for them. But important too, of course, is the issue of the audit you're talking about. And I'm sure that President Museveni has run away from this debate, having known that in our own camp, we have been preparing to put him to task, to ask him the hard questions. The first hard question is, you have given Ugandans 3 manifestos. You have made over 2,600 pledges to the people of Uganda. What have you done before you make new promises? And I think
when... Do you think Mike can't answer that? Several can't answer that.
Of course, they don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. They have made so many pledges for the past 20 years. They have not acted on most of those pledges. But incidentally, they are making more pledges. So what's the rationale? And I think this is the big question, the audit question that Mr. Museveni is running away from in this debate. And therefore, we are saying, yes, it may be a missed opportunity to have Mr. Museveni public account, but certainly we will be there. We will be telling the people how different we are from him and what kind of dispensation.
Why don't you apply the same measure to candidate Kizza Besigye?
Well,
isn't it important that he also appears to defend the promises he's making to Ugandans? This is his third manifesto as well.
But Mr. Besigye has never been president of the Republic of Uganda. Mr. Besigye has been candidate 3 times. This is the first time. And I think that he has never gotten an opportunity to make pledges. He has never gotten an opportunity to implement the ideas they may have. So actually, the principle in this debate is Mr. Museveni, who has been around so many years, who has made 1,000 and plus pledges.
You said 2,600.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's why I said.
So you've already done the audit.
Oh yeah, and he is adding on to these pledges, while the old ones have actually not been fulfilled.
Ona, let me come back to you on this question. The idea of accountability, because I spent part of yesterday reading through some of the manifestos, the Go Forward manifesto, which is fortunately not very long, about 60 pages.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, about 61 pages. 61 pages. The FDC manifesto is about 44 pages. It's about 44 pages, and the NRM manifesto, I think, is coming in about 260 pages.
The usual.
Yes, I think about 260 pages.
The usual one.
The one of Venantius Variamreva is much shorter. I haven't seen the manifestos of the other candidates. Candidates need to be able to agree that when you offer yourself, you are at the same level as everyone else. So if Besigye and Museveni think we are playing above level, they're denying the voter that opportunity to make an informed choice. Is the selling alone important?
I don't think, Charles, because I think this all dramas once spoke to that this election is not about issues, contrary to what the candidates telling people that it's about issues. This ultimately is about personalities. That's why the president tactfully is saying he needs to be
with the people,
with the voters. He needs to be seen as, and better still, standing alone and with all those crowds, the adulation, which of course shows most voters that look, the president has so much support, the candidate has so much support. So coming to a shared platform does not really add much to a campaign. This is not about issues. As far as most Ugandans are concerned, their decision on whom they will elect is really about the personality, the perceived strengths of that individual. Can he win the election? Can he hold the country together? This is what guides people. I mean, there's a lot of cynicism towards the candidates' issue-based arguments, because people have seen government or government officials make these similar arguments year in, year out. Honorable Babas, for example, has been in government, and I think the president says he was the one running government. So, so even if you now
much to account as the
Maybe
NRM.
he's talking about.
So I think as the German unifier Otto von Bismarck said, the great issues of the day will not be solved by debates, but by blood and iron. That's really what has been determining Ugandan elections.
Before I go to Semuji, let me just come back to you. You're actually part and parcel of those 2,600 plus pledges.
Not as an executive, not as president.
No, but
you know, government has got a head. The head of a government is the president of the Republic of Uganda. That presidential chair is one. And all others are ministers, prime ministers are just assistants to the president.
And your candidate was the head of government business.
The president, the leader is responsible. Takes responsibility for pledges and takes responsibility for any actions of his government, not his ministers. Because ministers actually have delegated authority. They enjoy delegated authority.
Does that include someone who was once described as the super minister?
Oh.
Delegated authority to a super level.
Yes, it still gets to that. It still gets to that. It still gets to delegated authority. Because
Prime
people,
Minister and the Secretary
the
General,
people,
that combination
the people,
is not ordinary combination.
the voters, when the voters are electing a president, they elect that particular individual in that office. And the Constitution gives him executive authority. And this president, the one who carries this executive authority, can now delegate this authority to some individuals. But still, whatever these individuals do, the president takes full responsibility.
But Mr. Mabike, surely you would be taking Ugandans for granted to let them imagine that after almost 29 years in power, at the very highest levels, former Prime Minister, former Secretary General Amama Mbabazi can claim to have had no responsibility to the failure to deliver on the pledges that you're talking about.
And the pledges are very different. We have got individuals cast in their own cast. Now I can give an example. We had a man like Kibaki. Kibaki was Vice President of the Republic of Kenya. He was Minister of Finance of the Republic of Kenya. When he became president, he initiated so many reforms that the people of Kenya today enjoy. We have a vivid example, very recent, of Magufuli. Magufuli was a minister of transport and works in Mr. Kikote's government. Yes, there were failures there. But when you see Magufuli taking over, within just 3 months, you are seeing a new Tanzania, a different government altogether. Individuals are different. And I think the experience of these individuals in their previous participation informs a lot of what they can be able to do once they take charge themselves.
But what does that say about the whole idea of governance? When a person who rose to the level of as high as Prime Minister and Secretary General of a party says all of us were there, but actually we're useless. We didn't have a say in how this government was run.
Yes, but you have been in Uganda long enough to know that to know the style of President Museveni. President Museveni, yes, that is his style. He as we're debating here, you know that, for instance, he will want to do everything on his own terms. He would want to take credit for all the achievements, and he would want to apportion blame for all failures. He never fails. That is his character. So I think we can't even waste a lot of time debating this.
Okay. Okay. Let me come to yes. You have been itching to say something.
I'm not surprised that the Go Forward have jumped on this, because it gives them a free platform, because the field is not turning out very interesting on their side. So jumping on this kind of audience
is quite nice.
would be a cup of tea.
Salvation.
Yeah, it is salvation, because things out there are not. But for
of course,
some of us who are grounded in the field and know where our strength is, we put our effort where our strength is, because there is a better return on the investment out there in the field. But Go Forward can come around, enjoy a cup of tea, and get people to view in and call in. So for them, actually, something.
You see, Charles, I think, with due respect, Honorable Sivaru is being simplistic on a very serious matter. See, having candidates who are offering themselves to the president, debate is a matter of a culture that you want to establish in a country.
Then why
that you can have respect by someone holding power, treating those who's contesting with courtesy. You've seen in other countries a leader of opposition and someone, prime minister, welcoming foreign dignitaries together, have a discussion with each one of them. It is a culture that is still devoid. Once you have someone who has personalized the state, and I take the argument from Ona, he can't allow that invisibility to disappear just by one evening of a presidential debate on a TV. But the bigger question, the biggest value in this debate is actually not the contest between the presidential candidate, but it's a culture that you want to establish.
While the argument still yours, in the latest press conference, the president described Uganda as in the middle of a forest. You don't want in the middle of a forest to have a debate. You need clear leadership, otherwise you may just get lost.
But
Yeah, because you see,
get my brother.
Can you allow him to conclude his thought, and then you can respond?
So once you treat other leaders with whom you are contesting, with whom you are running the country with contempt, that translates even to lower institutions. That's why you will see an RDC, you will see a DPC, for example, today, staging a roadblock, and he has to determine who goes to attend Kizza Besigye's rally in Moroto.
And he broke a camera.
Yes, and he had to beat up journalists. It's something I've been looking forward to, that one day you'll have a culture established in this country of someone holding power, respecting those contesting against him, and respecting citizens, but it hasn't come. In fact, I told Ona before the show started, that if President Museveni started doing things like this, I would now imagine that he's ready to hand over power, we are ready to have a transition as a country. What Sebaru cements is that for him he's too busy. Because you see, the whole campaign program was built around him. Before he was nominated as an NRM candidate, the Electoral Commission had to announce postponement of nominations. And the law had to be brought in Parliament to be passed, I think, within minutes. Because every single institution in this country must work to serve the leader. We are more or less like the brother leader in Libya. So those organizing the debate must visit State House to plead with him. Sir, when are you available? I think Nakalema, when? 15th. Then they come excited that now the big man has accepted. 15th is about to come. He says, now I am very busy with the campaign, as if he didn't know the campaigns. So every single thing must be done that way. But it's about this country belongs to all of us. You don't have to be cheering a leader when mistakes are being made. Just imagine what the country will feel. I saw the other day when the Pope visited and Mr. Museveni was shaking hands with Colonel Kizza Besigye. It had not happened in so many years. It took away some anger, not only from him, but also from many other quarters. You see, until when that has happened, that's when you'll have a country, and that's when you'll have a leader in a frame to hand over power. But this one who is even afraid of meeting, contesting against him on a TV platform, just imagine when it comes to hand over power. And the Electoral Commission that had to announce a postponement of nomination because he's not ready, that now they will say, please, you have lost, can you begin cleaning State House?
With the argument,
yes.
What is in this election, really?
You see, for us, and that's why we've made a three-issue campaign. The first one is to go and liberate ourselves. It's not something you have in a manifesto. But we said, until that has happened, you make a leader believe that the country is not a property in his hands, that he can dispense part of it as he likes. Then you go and have a contest. But as it is now, we must continue battling. We must continue fighting. And that's when you'll have a leader respecting not only religious leader, elders, and candidates, but once you still have a military man, a mighty man, who doesn't want to give away anything, who must continue being glorified and praised, and he thinks every single election, because you see, the statement...
So you agree with Onapito that this is not about issues? It's about personality?
It has never been. There has always been a referendum, and it has always been a fight. You see, when you have the military and the police blocking people going to attend a rally, and the Electoral Commission can keep quiet. The incident
But I understand the police has actually apologized for that incident and said they will do... They will take administrative action against the...
So shall we have... Because you see, the other day the Electoral Commission was questioning the DPC who was stopping Kano Besigye from visiting an IDP camp. So, this thing is going to be recreated. Shall we have another day in Moroto? Shall we have another day in... So in a nutshell, yes. For me, the only value I see in this, without someone coming to account for 30 years in power, is probably to establish a culture, and then you begin asking yourself, with us debating ourselves, are we establishing, are we furthering that culture? Or you also appear at a ceremony and then make people happy that some people have accepted. Because the first time, I think in 1996, the president was supposed to have a debate. Someone else is the only one who appeared. So the point is, until such a time when we have agreed,
busy.
He's not busy. He can't give out his invisibility.
Okay. I'm afraid I'll come to you after a short commercial break. And when we come out of the break, we'll be taking on a broader look at the question of violence in the elections. And there is the nagging question of the fate of Christopher Aine, the head of the security of candidate Amama Mbabazi. His mother gave a press conference earlier today in Mbarara and was saying she has no idea where her son is, and she's worried. The whole family was there, worried. We'll be discussing that and the broader issues of security. And of course, we'll be taking feedback from our viewers. If you're there and watching us, the numbers will be running on the screen, and then you can call in and ask a few questions, but kindly keep it as brief as possible so that you can allow as many people to participate as we possibly can take in a night. We'll be right back. Welcome back this last segment of the Fourth Estate. And as I announced earlier, the numbers will be running on the screen in a moment, and you can call in and make your contribution. But keep it as brief as possible and remain as civil as you possibly can so that all of us can share, and the gentleman in the studio will be able to give you some answers. One of the most nagging questions is the question of violence in this election. We saw what we have seen sparks here and there, the most serious of them being in Ntungamo. And that has resulted into the disappearance of one of the members of the Amama Mbaba's task force. Let me start with you, Mike Mabike, on the question of Christopher Aine. What is his fate as we speak today? The president spoke about it yesterday, candidate Amama Mbaba spoke about him yesterday, and the mother spoken today.
I want to say that we are all guessing about Aine's fate. But before Aine's disappearance, you know for sure that there were two very prominent staff of Go Forward who were killed. One of them was our chairperson of Boda Boda Group, called Maweje Swalik. On the day we held a rally in Mbarara, he was followed up by men who are believed to be operatives. They knocked him down and actually beheaded him. He was buried without a head. The other very prominent supporter of our group who has suffered similar fate is Tumwebaze, who was picked from her home and was found dumped in a stream, dead. Now, we fear for Aine, because Aine, according to family, was picked by men in plain clothes, according to family, according to his brothers. He was picked, and since that day, there is no trace about him. And the police, when we came out and reported, when we came out and made alarm about the disappearance of Aine, police reacted by putting up a notice, actually calling for anybody in the public who has seen Aine to hand him over to police. And recently, print media was awash with images of a dead man resembling Aine. And what do we see as police response? Police comes in and says, well, in spite of our other appeal, we are sure that Aine is actually alive,
Yes.
but hiding somewhere. So this now raises two questions. First question is whether the Chigundu Commission is still in control of this process.
Okay.
And number two,
Yes.
number two
Just conclude that because we need to pick a caller.
is whether the Uganda police is still playing its constitutional role of being independent and impartial protector of law and order.
Okay, let's pick one call and then I'll come back to that because we have some questions to ask you as well. Caller, are you online? Yes, we can hear you. Yes, Francis? Keep your question or comment brief.
Yes. Can the elected commission bring up a law that can force President Museveni to come on to that debate? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Do we have another call on the line? Yes, that was a question from Francis. I don't know, maybe Mike Sewell will answer that question. Yes, hello?
Hello.
Yes, please.
Defiance.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Your name and where you're calling from, keep your question or comment brief.
My name is Marvin. I'm calling from Kampala.
Yes, Marvin, go ahead.
My question is, if Mr. Aine was shot by operatives who are suspected to be police and the likes of that, why, to this date, doesn't even police have something to say about his possible whereabouts? If he's dead, he's dead. Let them come out and speak. But we don't like this whole propaganda of they're arresting editors, they're doing this. They know his whereabouts, they produce him and let the family brief properly.
Yes, well, police has put 20 million on anybody who can provide information leading to his arrest. Not finding him, but his arrest because he is a suspect in a criminal matter.
Already they know where he is. That's just a hoax.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comment. Do we have another call on the line? Hello? Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
This is Joseph calling from Naguru.
Yes, Joseph, keep your question or comment brief.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to say that in fact, I'm disappointed with the President Museveni because the person who could have taken advantage for this debate could be Museveni. Because you can't take 30 years and you still can't miss one day. Because even if you go to the villages, everybody knows Museveni. It would have been these new candidates to say we can't miss to advertise ourselves. But for him, he has been there for 30 years. He wouldn't use that excuse. There is something else, as others are saying, that is fearing a live debate and to account for his failures. Let him just believe that, but not to say, I can't waste time to go and campaign. Yet, he has been campaigning for the last 30 years and doing. And as he says, that action speaks more louder than words. Then his action must have spoken for the last 30 years. He wouldn't cowardice to appear for only. And if at all possible, let the time be changed tonight from 6 to 10. At the time campaigns are over.
Thank you, Joseph. Actually, the debate is supposed to start at 8 o'clock. The actual debate, I think, will be starting a little bit later, so it's in the night. But Mike Sevalu here is representing the NRM, and he'll speak to that because President Museveni is a candidate of a party, not a candidate on his own. Yes, we have another call on the line. Hello?
He's a candidate who has a party.
Yes, please.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Keep your question or comment brief.
Going from Lira.
Yes, please.
I think the core issue is the gentleman of the movement to assure Ugandans, the voters, the civilians, on the TV to vote Museveni out of power. Can they guarantee a smooth transfer of power? This is a core of confidence. We want them to let us know. We don't want the vote talk. We want the civil voting talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we need to have some answers or a response to some of those comments before we can pick more callers. But just before you respond, Mike Sevalu, because most of them are actually coming to you. Mike Mabike, don't you as the Mbabazi campaign have a responsibility and an obligation, not just to the family of Christopher Aine, but to Ugandans, to account for him? The mother said she last spoke to a Mama Mbabazi in Nakasongola. Nakaseke. He took her number, promised to call her, and has not called her to this day. President Yoweri Museveni, or candidate Yoweri Museveni, I don't know which hat he was wearing when he spoke in Ntungamo yesterday, he said Mbabazi knows where this boy is.
First of all, I would like to say that the Honorable Amama Mbabazi is very concerned about the missing Aine. He's very concerned about this situation. And it is indeed true that he met with the mother in Nakaseke. And it's also true that the PR head, the chief of PR, Madam Mayanja, Madam Mayanja and Madam Maggie Luko have been in constant touch with the mother and the family. We are really taking this very seriously, and we have done our part, and we are still doing our part. We are doing everything possible under the sun to trace the whereabouts of Aine, and we only let the public know what we also know. What we know is that Aine was picked by men in plain clothes. Actually, all we should say is that we are more or less returning to the days of Idi Amin, where individuals could go missing and having been taken by state operatives, they go missing for days, months, and years. And I think that's our fear, that we are more or less returning to those days. What we know is he was picked. Police say they don't have him. they are actually looking for him, then who was he?
Mr. Sebalu, would you like to start by responding to that? Because you're the government in power, your party is the party in power, and he says actually the state of progress you're talking about is a progress backwards, especially when it comes to security. But the broader question of election violence, because the root cause of Aine's disappearance is incidents of election-related violence in Jinja and in Ntungamo. And then you can also respond to the comments from some of the...
I definitely say we don't condone violence. We don't condone it and we don't support it. There could be errant individuals in all the parties and we condemn them equally. But the issue of Aine is very intriguing because until yesterday or a day before, when Right Honorable Mambama Mbabazi came out to talk about the Aine issue, he had unusually kept quiet about someone whom everyone would consider very important to him. And all that said and done, there was no record of go forward having even informed the police about something like that until that. Even the family had never reported to police about the disappearance. Those sound quite disturbing ways, and more so for Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi, who is very well versed with the law, very well versed with police investigative machinery. The fact that he didn't say anything until the press conference, and even when this other picture came in the media, that is very disturbing.
No, that's not correct.
Can I give my, because when he was talking,
right, because
can I
giving an upside?
You're protected.
Can I continue giving my viewpoint?
Please go ahead.
And the mother very categorically today has stated that she met Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi on the 24th, something like that, according to the date she was quoting. And he indicated that he was going to call her back to update her on the whereabouts. And up to today, not even yesterday, she has not even received a call from Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi. Now, those are very disturbing dimensions of that whole saga. But what I want to say is that let's give police opportunity to do the investigations. Anyone with information that may assist in a faster conclusion of this issue should give it to police, and then the issue is put to rest. So let police be assisted as an investigative machinery in this whole process. But the dynamics, as I've indicated, are very intriguing.
Your candidate spoke with a lot of confidence. One, he spoke confidently that he believes Aine is still alive, and I want to imagine that believing he's still alive is also a belief that he's safe wherever he is, and two, that he believes that Mama Mbabazi knows where he is. Where did he get that confidence from? He is the president, so he
the president has many sources. There are institutions and agencies of government that feed him. So definitely for him to have a vantage position on this matter in terms of factual information is not something you can doubt. He's got credible sources that can lead to his conclusion.
So it is your assertion that as far as you're concerned, Aine is somewhere safe, being hidden by the Mama Mbabazi camp? Because the president talked about, in specific terms, said, why do you want to kill this poor mother? With pressure. And the relatives and family and friends of Aine are watching us, and they are looking to you, who have better access to information, to assure them that the anxiety is actually uncalled for.
Actually, from a very serious point of view, the person who should answer for Aine's whereabouts is Right Honorable Mama Mbabazi.
If you could also use the time to respond to some of the comments, because they were...
The comment regarding accountability. You know, there are different ways of accounting. And the one that we've chosen as NRM is going to the people. because we are making a contract with the people. The mandate we got was given to us by the people, and we don't do anything wrong whatsoever when we go to the people and explain ourselves. Our manifesto is available, and it is the basis of engagement by our candidate. He's been able to explain what he's been able to do and what he's not been able to do using the principle of prioritization. Definitely the resource envelope is inelastic, but the demands of Uganda are elastic. But we have been able to deal with certain aspects, and he's been able to explain
so
that
why not come and
in
explain
plain.
that to 35 million Ugandans.
So what is what is the problem of explaining it to the people in their respective areas as per the program that we've put across? Because even as we went to Chigundu, what was provided for is a program of all the candidates, and we are following that. So I find it disturbing for anyone to fault us for following our own program. If anything, we should be faulted for abandoning our program and jumping on other people's programs. So I totally see nothing wrong with sticking on your schedule, which you arranged and which you follow.
Mr. Sebalo, do you believe what you're saying?
I believe. I do.
He doesn't.
Of course.
Someone
No,
finds it difficult.
for you have an interest. I can see you have an interest. But I want to tell you...
I have an interest
Yes.
in a presidential candidate, more so if that candidate is my president, to avail themselves to be asked the questions that audits their performance when they are offering themselves for election
Who
again.
arrogates himself the right of being the auditor if it is not the population
The
in
vote.
general?
Yes.
The voter.
Yes.
So what is the problem if the president goes to Mitoma? There are people there who ask questions which are even relevant to their own situation. To me, that is a better audit than these generic questions. So let each and every part of the country audit him from the viewpoint of their needs, of their promises, and of their demands. And that is exactly what he has done. He is going to the people to audit him from the viewpoint of their own areas and their own situations. So to me, that is more feasible.
I saw a tweet today sent by from the Twitter handle of someone called Yoweri Museveni, and it said Richard Todwong has been assigned to represent the NRM party at the debate. Can you confirm that?
I'm not aware of that.
You're not aware?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me come back to Semuju and Onapito on the question.
First, ask Semuju whether they are going to start their defiance by forcing Yoweri Museveni to debate.
No, after discussing the debate, I want to go to the question of violence in the election. What we have seen so far doesn't portend well, doesn't indicate that Ugandans can rest assured that what will determine the final result of this election is actually their vote. And the consequence of that is that some Ugandans will tend to stay away from the vote, and therefore voter apathy grows if violence appears to be preeminent. The case of Eine, how are you watching it in the FDC?
Let me start with the broader subject of violence. I think the preparation, the build-up to the elections, the build-up to the campaigns, was a build-up to have a violent election, or as you saw the Minister of Internal Affairs and Police coming to Parliament ask for, was it 58 billion shilling for post-election violence. So the president, the security institutions are actually preparing, or they think that there will be violence after election. Why do they think so? They will just summarize it that because USG has been saying we run a defiance campaign. The truth of the matter is that you still have a leader and his whole machinery who will use all the means available if they lose the election to declare themselves. They are also aware that the civic levels, the civic competence of Ugandans, the ordinary Ugandans, is growing day by day. So there will be a response. And I have told them, if you cheat the election this time, there will be a robust response. We are not joking when we begin assembling power 10 everywhere I've gone.
Are those
So
the
the
men in black I
citizens-
saw in Moroto today?
Not necessarily, they are not at display, but the citizens will wake up and respond to any election that has been stolen.
So you're
In fact,
declaring
for us
you
that-
have, you have a militia in reserve.
I mean, if the population is a militia, that's a constitutional obligation. To defend the constitution using any means available is one of the articles in the constitution. So the point is, you have, you have an institution called the NRM with their leader, who by all means must be declared the winner. And they are afraid that actually if we do so, there will be a response. They are aware, and for me, I am happy that they are aware there will be a response. What do? Recruit crime preventers, equip policemen. I'll just divide a bit just to illustrate that point. During my campaign, I've kept asking people in Chera how many police pickup trucks are in the area and how do we have an ambulance. In my area, which is 300,000 population, we have a brand new police patrol pickup, Boyogerere, Chireka, Chirinya, Charwajara, everywhere, with no single ambulance. So you have a regime that must buy all the apparatus, all the arsenals that can be available on the market, just to hang on to power. And the reason they are buying, they know that the population will one day turn against them. So the disappearance of Aine, the biggest problem is the credibility of the state. Once citizens begin doubting the state, then the state is already on trial. And I've made this point each time we are encountered by such a crisis. In all the cases, similar cases, including death, they first announce results and then they begin investigations. Now they have told you, Amama Mbabazi knows where Aine is. But the spokesperson of police is saying we are investigating. If you know and you are sure that Amama Mbabazi has Aine, then what are you investigating? But that's how they usually behave. They are always acting in a panic and acting in haste. I think especially the Amama Mbabazi has suffered until recently, suffered more violence and more disruption than our own campaign. You see people in yellow, including Tumukunde flying at the venue of Israel, in Mukono, in Masaka, in Ntungamo. Of course, Sebaru says with a straight face that we don't condone violence. But if you dress people in your campaign material to go and invade a venue of another presidential candidate and you say you don't condone violence, I don't know who condones violence.
I'm intrigued
The
by your
one who
earlier...
talks of a defiance.
Yes, I'm intrigued by your earlier comment where
Yes.
you said people are ready to respond. That and you gave the example of equipping the police in your constituency without providing the basic necessities like an ambulance system. And when you have a candidate in opposition who actually thinks it's more important to prepare people to defy where their view hasn't been respected than to tell them the power of your vote can actually liberate you.
No, it is actually not the presidential candidate, it is the constitution of this republic that tells you to defend that constitution, you can use any means available. That article is in the constitution.
And what means available to you?
I've said any means available. So the constitution said so. In fact, what we are doing is just to continue raising the civic competence of the citizens, that please, wait a minute, your constitution says to defend it, you must use any means available. And to determine a leader is part of the constitution. So it is not that we've announced. I remember Honorable Kennedy Chams was taken to court, either 2006, because he has said if you see some foreigners coming here to vote, you pick pangers. So the court said, but there are no foreigners coming here. So what crime did Chams commit?
I'm told we have very little time to this discussion. Let me just come to you on the question of violence. Because violence has a direct impact on whether voters will go out and vote. And from hearing the arguments here, people will be asking themselves, it might contribute to voter apathy.
Not only that, coming from the business world, Charles, certainly the issue of violence the worry is genuine, because it will not only lead potential to loss of lives, but also the disruption of economic activity. And in an economy which desires more growth. And what worries me most is the fact that none of the key candidates actually believes in this process from their comments at various points. I think all the three top candidates have indicated there will be stealing of their votes. So they don't have confidence they don't have confidence in the Electoral Commission, and they have apparently prepared their supporters to defend the vote. How do you expect people to defend the vote without fighting? If you tell ordinary citizens to defend the vote, don't defend your vote. This statement has been made by all the three major camps of Yoweri Museveni, Amama Mbabazi, and Kizza Besigye. So clearly the candidates need to change their rhetoric and say the Electoral Commission, we have confidence in it, but nobody seems to believe that the Electoral Commission will manage the process. And in that kind of atmosphere, it's really a recipe for violence. And I think the president has indicated as recent as in his latest press conference that he doesn't believe this is the time for him to leave power. And then the two leading opponents are all purporting or saying that they are going to win. So who is going to leave power now?
Let's throw the question back to you because you represent the different camps. Starting with you, Mike Seval, as we get out of the show.
Yeah, what is happening is that some of these statements that are preparing people like the Defiance agenda, right from the word go, you need to look at it from the viewpoint of Colonel Kizza Besigye when he said he would never take part in an electoral process presided over by the Electoral Commission. He even narrowed it to an individual, Chigundu. Then somehow he changed. I don't know by what magic.
Why don't you account for your part?
No, I'm coming because
Honor raised very specific issues.
I'm coming to that point.
Yes.
Then you find the whole issue of defiance. Now that is one way of preparing the population not to accept defeat. Basically, that is the strategy, not to accept defeat, because I don't see any signals that indicate that they are winning in the first place. Definitely, if I've used different
benchmarks. Isn't that directly countered by indications or statements from your candidate that indicate he's not ready to hand over power? That's what I was talking about. He's not ready to accept defeat.
Not necessarily.
Yes.
Because if you look at the ground now, we have 12 unopposed members of parliament. We have 12 chairpersons. No, not too simplistic. It does. Because if you can't raise a candidate in a district, no, I mean, illustrate with the data. Be empirical.
Let me give you data.
Be empirical. Which data do you have?
In the area where I am an MP, there is only one FDC councillor. All the councillors are DP. So what we're doing about, so if DP gets 80% of the councillors and the FDC has, in fact, is the one in that constituency.
No, but the issue of member of parliament is totally different. You can't reduce it.
Chairperson,
an entire district.
If every day you're creating
an entire district.
From 370 to 450.
An entire district and an entire constituency.
Which districts are you talking about?
There are 12 districts. They are 12 districts. And for me, I can use that as empirical evidence.
Now you can see that
I use it as empirical evidence. So bring your evidence.
So talking about a district, can I tell you?
Yes.
Kapchorwa was divided into Queen and Buko.
Yes.
The three districts combined have a smaller population than Kira municipality.
Yeah, but
so what is in a district?
But if you can't you can't have an individual, so even picking a nomination, then it shows that your level on the ground.
I think you have.
So that is evidence. Bring your evidence. At least for me, I have evidence.
You've taken your time, so let's have Mike Mabike.
Can I also say that one of the constituent organizations of our alliance is an organization called NRM Pro Change. And of the 12 MPs that he's talking about, 6 are actually members of the NRM Pro Change. That one you should know. And of the 13 chairpersons he's talking about, 5 are members of NRM.
Definitely, that is laughable.
They are not. It's not laughable. It is
laughable.
Now,
sleeper cells. They are not.
Those are sleeper cells. Now, gentlemen, I'm afraid we got to get out of here. We have actually overshot our time. I need you to speak. Each one of you has 30 seconds to speak to the question of your candidate's commitment to not just a free and fair election, but one that is devoid of violence, and you plan to get the vote out, if it matters. Can I start with you?
Yes, candidate Amama Mbabazi is committed to a process that is free and fair, that is devoid of rigging. And there is no reason why a so-called winning candidate, a so-called Museveni winning candidate, should come in to disrupt our lives. There is no reason, if you are winning, to come in and abduct, arrest, suppress, and persecute our members. Certainly, Uganda police is on trial. I agree. And where the public loses trust in an institution like police, where the public loses trust in an institution like the security agencies, certainly we fear that that public may take the law into their hands.
Thank you. Mike Sebalu.
Yeah, candidate Museveni is the only candidate whose message is message of unity, unifying Ugandans. He's talking against sectarian politics, which is being funded by many other candidates, and he's talking against threatening violence during and after the elections. And his strategy is to engage the people. He's engaging the people. The turnout of the rallies where he's been is telling, is very encouraging in terms of the connection and the response. And his last week, he was in the backyard of the two main challengers, that is Honorable Mbabazi and Honorable Kizza Besigye, and the crowds,
and the ferries.
And there was no ferrying, and the crowds, and the enthusiasm, and the interest expressed in those two constituencies. You would imagine that he was in his own backyard.
Thank you.
And he has not suffered an embarrassment at any rally that has not been responded to, just like many rallies between the two candidates have come out to reflect.
We've not had any rally where crime preventers are demanding for transport refund. That we have not had. And with a target of 1.5 crime preventers who are going to be given, actually the distribution of motorcycles and loans has started, you can understand why the artificial crowds are put there. But the biggest point, for us, this is a cut-off point. Still, this election, like you've done before, confirmed by many people who have worked with you at the highest level, there will be a public response to it. And there is no question about it. We can only avoid violence if Mr. Museveni loses elections and he peacefully hands over power, like it happened in Nigeria, it happens in Kenya.
And if you lose?
If we lose, certainly we'll accept the loss. But if we defeat him, like it is most likely, because I have seen, I mean, everywhere we've gone, we don't fail.
What's your prediction for your victory?
I think we'll have something above 55%.
55%. What's your prediction for your victory?
Because you're already above 57.
What's your prediction for your victory?
Ours is not anything less than 70.
Your president said
No, actually,
our time is out.
Charles, you can see we are in trouble because all these guys are going to win. So who will lose?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mike Sebalu, head of the Media and Publicity Task Force of candidate Yoweri Museveni. Thank you very much. Mike Mabike, head of publicity and media for candidate Amama Mbabazi. Thank you very much. Ibrahim Samujunganda, head of media and publicity for candidate Dr. Kizza Besigye. Thank you very much. Colleague Onapito.
Why not say head of media and publicity Nile Brewery?
Yes, corporate affairs director Nile Brewery. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all our viewers. And thank you very much, especially for those of you who called in. And we'll continue bringing you the live Fourth Estate, and we'll give you an opportunity to contribute. Have a good night.